Pigfoot. Pigfoot was intense, and then monkey brains, but that one was in Ghana. You may so the craziest thing was we were at a member's house, and we were having a very great lesson with them, and we did not realize the time at all. And we had a very strict curfew of 7, so we got done with the lesson and we realized it was like 8 o'clock, and we're like, oh my gosh. So we hurried and we got on a bike, and the roads there, the area where I was at, there wasn't any good roads. So the motorbike you're on, it's you, the 3 of you on a motorbike and bouncing up and down on these roads. And we asked him to take us all the way to the apartment, which is maybe on a motorbike, it's maybe a good 20-25 minutes on a motorbike. And then we start just going on this hill, and then this guy is just sliding around like crazy. And we're like, what is going on? And then I smell him. And I smell his neck. It's like wild hogs, why he's sniffing my neck. No, but I smell his neck because I could smell something, and then I could smell palm wine, which is just alcohol. It's wine, and I'm like, man, have you been drinking? I said, man, you've been drinking? And then he's like, yeah, I've been drinking. I'm like, oh my gosh. And this is when we've been on the bike for a little bit, and we're just telling him, we're like, my man, pull over right now. He's like, no, I'm going to take you the whole way. We're like, my man, pull over right now. And then he wouldn't do it though. And this guy was drunk the whole time. And then after we're on the bumpy roads, we get onto the one part where there is actually road and it's traffic. It's pretty much just 2 lanes, traffic going this way, traffic going this way in the dark. So you see headlights, and he decides to go in between them like motorbikes do. I mean, normally it doesn't scare me, but the fact he was drunk was terrifying me. We almost fell over, I think, 5 times, but he caught himself with his foot, but he would not let us off the bike at all. I thought he was going to kill me. When he got down, we gave him the money. And he wanted more, and he was drunk, so I didn't argue with him. So I gave him more, and that's it. 6 months of rain. How it goes is you have 6 months of dry season and 6 months of rain, and maybe for about good 3 months of that rainy season, it rains every single day. So the rain is the most intense weather. But the hardest days for me was the days that it just pours for an hour, and then just the hardest rain that you've ever experienced. And I loved the rain. I mean, even if I forgot my rain boots or my umbrella, I would still just go run and dance in the rain. But I would still just go have fun in the rain, and we'd still go teach. And I always had most of the time I had a companion who was down with that too. But the worst days for me were the ones where it would rain super, super hard for maybe like a good hour, 2 hours, and then it would stop raining, and then it would just be super, super hot. So it would be hot and extremely humid, and then it would rain again. And then you're like, thank you. And then it would get hot again, and it'd stop raining. That was the most extreme weather, was when it would rain, stop raining, rain, stop raining, because the humidity and the heat would just kill you. So I say I like Liberia a lot because I do. One thing that I also in Liberia is you're gonna get just those wonderful golden people that come to you and say, I just want to learn about the gospel. And there's so many of them, but one of them, his name was Christopher, and one day we went to him, and we sit down, me and my companion. I'll try to make it quicker, but we sit down, me and my companion, and we are teaching his friend, and then he comes and he says, oh, I'm Nigerian, I went to theology school, and I've been an assistant pastor and everything like that. And we're like, oh, great. Good, super awesome, fun. And then we say, okay, well, we'll come back sometime, and we'll come and sit with you. We go back to teach his friend, because when you usually sit down with pastors, it never goes over too well. But we sat down with him because his friend wasn't there, and he said, you're going to teach me. So we're like, all right. we taught when we started teaching him, and he he just started listening to everything we were saying, and everything that we said to him, he's like, it makes sense. This is true. This is so true. And we're like, man, this is a pastor saying these things. He's an assistant pastor, not anymore, but and what he had to give up is he was married at the time, but he had to get everything in line with which he was married and everything, so he had everything in line with that. But he could drink, but he gave up that. He could drink. That's such a Liberian phrase. But he drank alcohol, but he gave up that. He stopped going to church on Sundays because he didn't like what many people were teaching, and he gave up so much to be able to join the church. And we asked him if he wanted to be baptized, and he said yeah. And we're like, well, do you want to be baptized on this day? And then he's like, yeah, that would be great. And then we asked him, he's like, are you married? He said, yeah, I am. And then we're like, awesome. And then he brought his wife to church that Sunday. And that never happens. If they're gonna if they don't just choose to bring their wife, usually you have to ask them. But he brought her, and then we were starting to talk to him about baptism, and it says, are you still looking forward to this date? And it's like, yeah. And then we're like, and then when you're baptized, then you can even baptize your wife when she's ready. And he's like, no. And we're like, what? He's like, no, I'm going to be baptized with my wife. So he put off being baptized for 2 weeks because that's what he really, really wanted. He really wanted to be baptized, but he put it off for 2 weeks just so he could be baptized with his wife. And like I said, I love families when it comes to families, and that meant a lot for him to be able to do that. Ebola, that one's probably not going to happen again. You'd hope not. But something that is going to happen a lot, and I don't want to say just one experience because it happened a lot, was you're going to have so many people in Liberia where you are teaching them, even they come to church, and they love everything you're teaching, and you'll have so many of them like that. They seem like they're on the track towards conversion, and they are being converted, but then maybe they hear a rumor, maybe someone attacks them about it, and then they kind of completely become shut off. And it's going to happen a lot because you teach so many people. You have people you're teaching all the time, and people who are progressing so much that you love and you care about them so much, and then they'll completely turn away from what you're saying. And kind of how you're going to deal with that is you're just going to continue to show them love and continue just to kind of be a friend, even if they seem to hate you now. That was kind of the hardest experience for me, was having people that so many times that I teach, I love, they love what you're saying, they come to church, and then they just completely turn away from it because maybe a rumor, because something like that. Maybe that's what God planned, obviously, but and maybe that was their trial that they have to overcome, but it's going to happen. And just continue to show them love, because if it's God's will, then he'll make them come a little bit later, and I know that that's true. You learned how to fix shoes. So one thing that annoyed me before I left was my Vans. They always, the plastic on the Vans, it always came off, and then the fabric always started coming up, and that always annoyed me. But one thing that they do there is they're super resourceful there. Oh, they will take anything and reuse it. And that's one thing I loved, even when I got home. Like, throwing away food just drives me crazy now. Or not reusing stuff, it's driving me crazy. But fixing shoes was one thing that they do there. Like, sometimes if you have a hole in your shoe, they'll melt rubber, and then they'll fill the hole in the shoe. Sometimes like that. But the main thing I learned how to do was threading a shoe. Was when you have a needle, and then you have this thick thread that a lot of the times with the sole of your shoe, I know you probably can't see that. No, with the sole of your shoe, what you're going to do is you're going to stab it through the sole of, if the sole is right here and then the top's right here, you're going to stab it through the sole of the shoe, and then you're going to have a piece of thread here and then a piece of thread out here, and then you're going to stab it through, hook it onto the sole, your hand is in your shoe, and then you're going to pull it out, and then it's going to kind of tighten it all the way around, kind of all the way around your shoe right here. So what happens is it doesn't, when it comes to dress shoes, so your dress shoe doesn't come off, so the sole doesn't become detached from the rest of your shoe. And so I continue to use that. Like even my Vans, where the plastic comes off, I've just sewn all around my shoe so the plastic doesn't come off. So that's kind of one of the skills that I enjoyed. I learned how to fix shoes. Relying 100% on Jesus Christ, and learning that when it comes to the true gospel of Jesus Christ, that each and everything has an eternal consequence when it comes to it. But the first one is, I kind of went there thinking, like, there's a wonderful talk by Brad Wilcox, His Grace is Sufficient, that kind of encompasses of what all that I learned on my mission is just how before I would kind of wait until the very end to rely and to ask God for something. I would, or in the moment of something, I would ask God for it. But then on my mission, I always thought it was funny when I'd see people, like, the first thing that they do when they get something great, when they get a blessing, the first thing that they do is they say a prayer of thanks for it. And I'm like, man, I want that to be the first thing in my head when I get something, is to have a prayer of thanks for it. Or my first thought when I'm in need of something, not just when I'm in need of something, but my first thought for everything is, well, let me pray about it. And that is probably one of the greatest things that I learned, was I know what place God is in my life now. I know what position He takes over everything else. How it's not just when I need something, when I pray, I find myself just praying in the day just because I want to. Not just having a prayer in my heart, but just actually closing my eyes and just saying a silent prayer. Because it's what I wanted to be able to gain, and it's something that I was blessed with, is being able to rely on Jesus Christ 100% of the time to push me all the way, and not just when I need it, but always.